Ladies, if you find yourself passing gas a little more often than you'd like, or worse, without meaning to, don't just brush it off or laugh it away. Because after 65, your body is trying to tell you something. Uncontrollable gas isn't just embarrassing, it could be a red flag for deeper health issues. Today, I'm sharing 8 serious conditions linked to chronic flatulence in older women. Some of them are sneaky, others are silent, but all are treatable when caught early. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll share the one simple daily habit I recommend to almost every older woman who walks into my office with this problem. 1. Pelvic floor dysfunction, the hidden muscle problem most older women ignore. All right, ladies, let's talk about something nobody wants to bring up at morning tea, but everyone should. The pelvic floor. You can't see it, you don't feel it working day to day, but let me tell you, once it stops doing its job, you'll notice. Especially when you laugh, sneeze, or pass gas at the worst possible moment. Your pelvic floor is a group of muscles that holds up your uterus, bladder, and rectum like a sling. Over time, whether from childbirth, surgeries, menopause, or just the natural aging process, those muscles lose their tone and strength. And when they're weak, it's not just your bladder that suffers. Your ability to control gas can vanish, and you're left wondering why you suddenly sound like a whoopee cushion at church. What most older women don't realize is that pelvic floor dysfunction doesn't always present as a big dramatic prolapse. It starts subtly, with little leaks, poor bowel control, and yes, uncontrollable gas. And it's not just about discomfort or embarrassment. When these muscles weaken, it can affect your overall health, your confidence, and even your posture. The good news is it's not permanent. With the right exercises, often guided by a pelvic floor physiotherapist, you can regain control. But the first step is admitting that just getting older isn't an excuse. It's a signal to start caring for the muscles we can't see but desperately rely on. 2. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. This one is a sneaky little devil, and far more common than most older women realize. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, happens when the bacteria that normally live in your large intestine migrate up into your small intestine where they don't belong. Once they're up there, they start fermenting your food way too early in the digestive process. And what happens when food ferments too soon? Gas. Lots of it. Now, I'm not talking about the occasional bloated belly after beans. This kind of gas is persistent. You feel full even after small meals. Your belly might look 5 months pregnant by the afternoon. And worse, your gas starts escaping without warning, especially when you sit down or change positions. Sound familiar? SIBO often gets mistaken for other things like irritable bowel syndrome or food intolerances. But if your gas comes with chronic bloating, discomfort, or changes in your bathroom habits, it's worth investigating. It can be diagnosed with a simple breath test, and in many cases, it's treatable with antibiotics, herbal remedies, or targeted diet changes. So if you're dealing with mystery gas and no amount of probiotics or peppermint tea is helping, don't shrug it off. You might be dealing with SIBO, and you don't have to suffer in silence. 3. Diverticulosis and diverticulitis. This one is a tale of tiny troublemakers. As we age, little pockets called diverticula can start forming along the walls of the colon. That's called diverticulosis. And it's incredibly common in people over 60. On its own, it might not cause problems. But when one or more of those pockets becomes inflamed or infected, it turns into diverticulitis. And that's when the trouble begins. One of the earliest warning signs. Excess gas that just won't quit. You might notice pressure or cramping in your lower belly, especially on the left side. Your bowel movements might start changing, going from loose to sluggish without much warning. And all the while, that gas just keeps making uninvited appearances. Here's the important part. Diverticulitis can become serious if ignored. It can lead to infections, abscesses, and even surgery if it's left to simmer. But caught early, It can be managed with diet, rest, and sometimes antibiotics. If your gas seems different, stronger, more persistent, or accompanied by tenderness or bathroom issues, it's worth checking in with your doctor. Because sometimes what seems like just an embarrassing wind problem is actually your colon waving a red flag. For irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. Don't make the mistake of thinking IBS is just for stressed out young women. In fact, more and more older women are being diagnosed with IBS for the very first time after 60. Why? Because hormones shift, digestion slows, stress still plays a role, and food sensitivities sneak in as we age. IBS often comes wrapped in a package of bloating, gurgling, and, you guessed it, excess gas. You might feel like your gut has developed a mind of its own. One day, everything's moving too fast. The next day, it's like your bowels went on strike. And through it all, the gas is relentless. It bubbles up when you're sitting quietly, it rumbles during your morning walk, and it surprises you during that silent moment in yoga class. The frustrating part about IBS is that there's no single test to confirm it. It's a diagnosis made after ruling other things out. But the encouraging part is that it can be managed through diet changes like low FODMAPs, stress reduction, gentle exercise, and sometimes medication. Women with IBS often find huge relief. If you feel like your gut is unpredictable and your gas isn't just a phase, don't write it off as nothing. IBS might be the answer, and getting that answer could change your day-to-day life in ways you didn't think possible. 5. Food intolerances, especially lactose and fructose. Here's something they never told us when we were younger. The foods we use to digest just fine can suddenly turn on us after 60. That warm glass of milk before bed, suddenly it's causing bloating, cramps, and a gassy explosion before you even make it to the covers. Welcome to the world of delayed onset food intolerance. Lactose intolerance is one of the most common offenders, and it becomes more likely with age. That's because our bodies naturally produce less lactase, the enzyme that breaks down lactose in dairy, as we get older. When lactose doesn't get digested properly, it ferments in the gut, producing gas that feels like it could launch you to the moon. And often, that gas doesn't wait for permission. It just escapes. But it's not just dairy. Fructose, found in fruit juices, certain fruits like apples and pears, and even in processed foods under the name high fructose corn syrup, is another big culprit. Many older women develop what's called fructose malabsorption, where the small intestine struggles to absorb fructose properly. And once again, fermentation, bloating, and uncontrolled gas. The tricky part is that many of us think we're eating healthy, yogurt for breakfast, fruit for a snack, maybe a little ice cream at night, and yet we're still feeling gassy, uncomfortable, and embarrassed. If that sounds familiar, it might not be what you're eating, but how your body is responding to it now. Keeping a food journal and trying elimination diets can help pinpoint the culprits. You don't have to give up all your favorite foods forever. But becoming aware of how certain foods affect your digestion can make a world of difference, not just for your gut, but for your dignity in public. 6. Constipation, the silent gas trap most women don't talk about. Let's be honest, nobody wants to talk about constipation, but almost every older woman has dealt with it. And not enough of us realize just how strongly it's tied to uncontrollable gas. When stool builds up in your colon and doesn't move along as it should, it doesn't just sit there quietly. It ferments. It produces gas. It puts pressure on your digestive system. And it makes it harder for gas to exit smoothly until it suddenly explodes out without warning and often without your consent. Chronic constipation also leads to something more subtle but serious: stretching and weakening of the rectal muscles and nerves. That means that over time, your body's natural ability to sense and hold back gas becomes duller. You may not feel the urge to go until it's too late, or the gas just leaks out on its own without the muscle tone to stop it. Some older women live for years thinking their gas is the problem, when in fact the real issue is the slow-moving bowel hiding behind it. Constipation can be caused by a mix of things: not enough fiber, too little water, medications like painkillers or calcium supplements, a sedentary lifestyle, or even just holding it in for too long out of habit or convenience. The solution? Movement, hydration, fiber, and not being afraid to talk to your doctor about it. You don't need to suffer in silence or in gas. 7. Diabetes and nerve damage, the gut connection most women miss. Now, this one is a bit of a curveball, but it's incredibly important. If you have diabetes, or even if you're pre-diabetic, you need to know this. Your nerves aren't just in your feet or hands. Your gut has nerves too, and when blood sugar is high for too long, it can damage the nerves that control your digestive system. This condition is called autonomic neuropathy, and it affects things like how quickly your stomach empties, how well your intestines contract, and how coordinated your bowel movements are. And one of the first, most common symptoms: excessive, uncontrollable gas. Some women develop a condition called gastroparesis, where the stomach empties too slowly. That slowdown causes fermentation, bloating, and, you guessed it, gas that sneaks out when you least expect it. Others find that the nerves around the rectum stop signaling properly, so they don't even feel gas building up until it's too late. What's frightening is how many women come in complaining of digestive issues: bloating, unpredictable gas, constipation, and it turns out to be a complication of long-term, poorly managed blood sugar. If you're dealing with those issues and you have diabetes, don't ignore it. Your body is telling you it needs help. Managing your blood sugar isn't just about preventing heart disease or protecting your eyes. It's about keeping your gut in working order too, so you're not living in fear of what might escape your body at any moment. 8. Early stage colorectal cancer, the one we all need to rule out. This one's serious, and I won't sugarcoat it because it could save a life. Colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer in women, and it doesn't always start with obvious symptoms like blood in the stool. In fact, one of the earliest signs is persistent, unexplained gas and bloating that feels different than usual. You might notice your gas has a new smell, or that it comes with more urgency. Your stool might look narrower, like a ribbon, or you find yourself needing to go more or less than usual. Some women feel a constant pressure in their rectum, like they haven't fully emptied. Others just feel off in their gut, but don't know why. Here's the problem. We're taught to laugh off gas, to treat bloating as just getting older, or just something I ate. But when it's new, persistent, or just wrong somehow, it's time to get screened. Colonoscopies are uncomfortable, yes, but they're one of the most effective tools we have for catching colorectal cancer early when it's highly treatable. If you're over 65 and haven't had one in the last 10 years and your gas patterns have changed noticeably, it's not just okay to speak up, it's essential. Because while fart jokes might be funny, colorectal cancer is not. And I'd much rather you get checked and find nothing than ignore it and regret it later.